All right. This is the first director's commentary video for everyoneistulip.com. I'm Dave Baker. Nicole, who are you?
Nicole Goux.
And what is your connection with Everyone is Tulip?
I am the artist, penciler, inker, letter of Everyone is Tulip.
And co-colorist.
And co-colorist, yes.
All right. So I
And
guess
you are?
I'm the writer. I wrote the thing. The easiest job that took significantly less time than everyone else who worked on this.
And we have our colorist, Ellie Hall, who is not present, but did an amazing job.
Yes. So, what is Everyone is Tulip?
Everyone is Tulip is a graphic novel that is about a girl who lives in Arizona and moves to LA to attempt to become an actress. And like so many people experience when they get here, doesn't really have a great time at it. But she stumbles upon a opportunity to start performing in YouTube videos and kind of get sucked into this world of YouTube performance art, and it kind of changes everything.
And how much of this project is done?
We're completely done. The book is at the printers and is coming out at the end of June, I believe June 29th, through Dark Horse Comics.
And how long have you been working on this little ditty here?
You and I have been working on, thinking about, brainstorming for about, I think we're coming up on 5 years now. A very long time to be working on anything.
I hate it. Yeah, so Everyone is Tulip is basically, the webcomic version, or .com is the webcomics version of the book, which Dark Horse has so kindly allowed us to serialize. So we're going to serialize it ourselves. How often will the site update, Nicole?
We are going to be updating Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at least until the book comes out, but I think we have plans to continue after as well.
And yeah, I mean, I guess this is, that ends the forced question and answer section of this video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, the idea is basically that we're gonna serialize this online because of the pandemic. We don't have the ability to go out and talk to people and show them the book at shows. So we're going to be serializing online, hopefully new people that wouldn't necessarily be aware of it in bookstores, because who the fuck goes to bookstores anymore because there's a goddamn plague, will find it and fall in love with the characters in your drawings and Ellie's colors, and maybe they'll tolerate my writing.
Nah, the writing doesn't matter.
Nah, the writing, comics writing, is there writing in comics? I don't know. So these videos, we're going to kind of, maybe not every update, but every so often when there's a big thing or a page that we're excited about, we're going to do these videos. They're going to upload alongside the pages for the website that will, they'll just be kind of like artist commentary, writer commentary videos. Maybe there'll be both of us. Maybe it'll just be one of us. Maybe there'll be some friends. Who knows? Maybe the real Becca will come on. There is no real Becca. So yeah, but like, that's kind of what it is. These just videos are a little bit of discussion. If you can remember, you can throw your mind back to yesteryear. What was the kind of origin point of Tulip? How did we start talking about it?
Well, I think I kind of discovered and got really into some weird, trippy YouTube videos, and was sort of fascinated by them, and we started talking about them a lot, and you and I were like kind of interested in making a thing that felt the way that those videos looked, and kind of started to build a story about people who perform in them and what their lives are like, and kind of what that sort of fame does to you. And it was pretty gradual because, you know, we had sort of a different idea of what the book would be when it started. It was going to be much more about being really kind of like a trippy acid trip version of what we ended up with. But I think as, you know, as we traveled around Europe and discussed what it would be, we were happened to be going to Thought Bubble and having a little mini vacation right when we were kind of forming the ideas of this. And we spent lots of plane rides and trains talking about
What it
who
could
Becca
be.
was. And
Yeah, it's really interesting to me to see the kind of evolution of it too, because anybody watching that doesn't know, Nicole is the artist of Shadow of the Batgirl for DC Comics, and we'd been working on the book for probably a solid year or so, right? And then DC came a knocking.
Yeah. So I ended up having to spend a year doing both, which slowed down my process a lot. And then I don't know whether we were always planning on getting a colorist or not, but I am not someone who is particularly quick at color. So we ended up, for time's sake and because we liked the way that her colors looked, we brought on Ellie. And, you know, with any process, that it just takes a long time to get it going, to get it looking like we wanted to color 170 pages or whatever it is, you know.
Even just you know, Dark Horse has been great, Connor, our editor, has been great, but even just the process of like going through the editorial like approvals process of like Dark Horse picking up the book, like I don't even, did that take 6 months? I don't even remember.
It took a long time. Yeah, I mean, because we come from self-publishing, and so we started the book before we had a publisher lined up. A lot of times people will make a pitch and go to publishers and only use, you know, some sample artwork and an outline basically before they get the book, before they spend a year making something, or in this case 5 years making something. But we did it a little backwards, where we just started the book because we knew we wanted to make it either way. And so it was mostly done by the time DC agreed to do the book with us, and then
Dark Horse
contracts and editorial and all these things take a really long time. So it was at least like 6 months of just kind of waiting on stuff, and
we were also just working on the book that whole time anyway, like
of course, yeah.
But it's still, there's a difference between like working on something at your own pace and kind of just like chipping away at it, or being like, oh, I'm really excited about this thing over here that maybe isn't like the most important thing to do, but I'm going to spend a lot of time on this drawing or this colored section or whatever it is. And when it's that weird thing of almost kind of like when you know that there's the potential that your thing will be seen by a much wider audience, it almost makes that waiting period feel even longer. Like even if we had just been working on the book at normal pace for 6 months, it's a different experience than when you're like, oh, but is it gonna happen? Is Dark Horse gonna pick it up? You know?
Yeah, that's true. It's a little bit more on the line, I guess.
Yeah. So maybe you know, the site launches today. Well, I guess maybe depending on when you're watching this in the future, it wouldn't be today, but this video is going to be uploaded when the site launches. And I thought maybe we'd go through some of the pages and the cover for, you know, just to kind of talk about the process of the art, what you were thinking about, what I was thinking about when I was writing them. So let's start with the cover, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. This cover is a shot of Becca / Tulip with a broken phone. Our credits are at the bottom. It's this kind of like teal and mauve color palette. And I guess my first question was, is this the first cover design?
Yeah, I was going to go into that. So this is actually our second, well, not second thumbnail, but I had a fully finished first cover, which we sent out along with the pitch, which we ended up changing. And that was more of a kind of like meant to look like a magazine cover. So it had Tulip in a fancy outfit, actually like a similar layout to this, but it had everyone is Tulip in kind of like a magazine font, and it had like article titles and stuff. And the idea was kind of to emphasize the fame aspect of what happens when someone kind of blows up on the internet, and how that opens up weird opportunities. And you know, like I was watching some TikTok girl the other day, and I was looking through her I watch TikTok through Instagram because I'm old. So I was looking through her Instagram, and she had these magazine covers. She was on, I don't know, Vogue or something like that. And it's weird that someone who is just making TikToks in their living room can go from being a teenager making TikToks to on the cover of these major magazines, and how that shifts your perspective so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and even just somebody like Billie Eilish, who was, you know, somewhat of a just kind of a, you know, D-list internet performer musician, and then almost overnight is just like the biggest celebrity on earth.
Yeah, I mean, it happens really quickly now, kind of in a way that wasn't possible in the past, and in the last 15 years, 20 years, I guess, more like. No, it's really more like 15, you know, with YouTube and viral platforms and stuff. It really has changed the way that a person can rise to fame.
Yeah. So did you always have this idea of this kind of teal and mauve color palette in mind? Is that something from the book, or was that something that you just felt was eye-catching, or like what was the decision process behind that color palette?
So the original color palette was more pinks for the cover, and I had colored 5 sample pages for our pitch, but the rest of the book wasn't colored, and I hadn't made any color decisions about it. But as we went through the book and developed the look of the book with Ellie, and figured out like what the colors were, what they would mean, what different scenes signified, we ended up kind of landing on this, you know, pink tone, but pretty local color for most of the book. But when Becca is Tulip, when she's on screen, when she's making the videos, they almost all have a really monotone, usually blue, teal, or a pink color palette. And so the teal of the cover is supposed to reflect her Tulip persona, and then the purple of herself, her real self in the phone screen, is kind of represents her real life and who she was before. Actually, we have some flashbacks in the book, and all of those are kind of like a purple monotone hue, and that's kind of like who she was before this all happened.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue into let's start talking about some of these pages. So next up we have the chapter 1 title page. Do you have anything to say about that, or do you want to go into the sequentials?
I feel like it's pretty obvious. It's a tulip. It represents Tulip, the title character of the book. And there are things about it related to the other chapter pages that are interesting, but I think I'll wait on kind of what that means.
Okay. We'll go next. So the opening page, the opening sequential page, is a 9-panel grid of this character that we don't know yet, who's a blonde girl staring straight at camera, saying everyone is Tulip. And the color palettes are somewhat reminiscent of that of the cover. Yeah, do you want to talk about why it opens this way a little bit?
Well, there's several reasons, but one of them is kind of to represent the repetitive nature of the videos that our character is making, and how the repetition of our panels is the numerous times that she makes these videos over and over and over again. And kind of really emphasizing this one idea over and over again, but in different variations. And the colors, again, are kind of meant to give her this sort of ethereal, weird, kind of otherworldly vibe, which is very different from how she interacts in the real world.
This motif of this character looking at camera saying everyone is Tulip over and over again, that's kind of the germ of the book, for me at least. Like, that's the spine of the book, was the idea of like, what if we did a book where there was a recurring motif where this happened, and it was this kind of, like you're saying, this strange ethereal otherworldly thing where it kind of doesn't really make sense. It's kind of Lynchian, but also at the same time, like, you know what it is because you've seen videos on the internet like that before.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing that really sells this idea, like, it's one thing for me to be like, what if we did 9-panel grids of this person? But it's another thing to convincingly draw maybe 100 outfits over the course of the book that are all like couture fashion and avant-garde fashionista clothing. You're really good at it. Is that something that you liked prior to this, or was that me going like, and then we just put her in weird clothing?
Well, I mean, it's definitely inspired by videos that actually exist. But yeah, I mean, I really like fashion. I'm not great at being very creative with my own personal outfits, but I like drawing it. I like looking at it, and it was really fun to kind of push myself. And as the book goes on, I feel like the outfits just kind of get weirder and weirder because I'm just playing around and having fun with it, and trying to figure out kind of like ways to make. I think the thing that was most challenging about it for me was finding ways to make the outfits strange and interesting and different without having real fabric or real texture to play with, and kind of having to build that stuff myself, because I'm not really someone who's going to draw every tiny little flower of a floral pattern unless it's pretty simplified. And I'm not someone who has a lot of experience with fabrics. So kind of learning about that and finding ways to replicate that in my sort of more simplified style was a little bit challenging, but fun, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I love these designs. Oh no, back one, please. I love these designs, but I think that they also, like, they're really good. But by the end of the book, it's like, this is what's in my head, is these drawings. And then by the end of the book, you have such a masterful skill over like weird, like there's one drawing where you draw her with like a table on her head, and it's so great. And it's not something I ever would have imagined, but it's like, oh yeah, that's like New York Fashion Week style bullshit where it's just,
Yeah.
avant-garde for the sake of avant-garde.
Mm-hmm.
You know, crazy rich white people stuff. But I love this costume, the one on panel 9, where she has the like blue flowers all over the breast of the dress and down her arm and in her hair. It's really nice. You can also feel you as an artist being excited about certain things in each one of the drawings, like, like whether it's the hair, like in panel 8, the that really large kind of almost knotted braid. Like, I can feel you being like
I mean, it's usually the hair that I'm excited about. But yeah, I mean, there's kind of, you find something in each design to kind of fixate on and spend time on. I mean, for you, what was, because we're not starting really with story. We're starting halfway in, or, the third of the way into the book, and not really telling people anything. So what was your thought of starting the book with the videos and with no explanation of the, like, that's what they are?
I mean, for me, I think it was kind of, there's that old writing adage, enter a scene late, or enter a scene late and leave early. In order, you're always trying to just have the most dramatic moments possible, and almost kind of like shaving away everything that's not those peaks and valleys. which is why in movies you don't have, you know, the scenes of characters driving from point A to point B in silence, bored. You know, you're skipping those things because it's inferred. Like if somebody leaves a location A and ends up at location B, the audience knows like, oh, okay, they had a really awkward long car drive or whatever. And that's kind of like so many comics these days. They handle that well, and then there's a lot that don't. As you know, there's a lot that, to me, it feels like people start their story a lot of the times in a very non-dramatic place because they want to build to the drama. And especially because when we started this, we thought this was going to be a self-published book. There's just no room to do anything other than just like, even though our book is a very kind of surreal, quiet book about compromise and fame, you know, it's not like there's no guns. It's not like anybody's
No punching in this one.
there's no punching. Nobody's even addicted to any drugs. Like, it's just like people.
Surprisingly for our content. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But you know, the goal was to try and set up all of the chess pieces as quickly as possible to get into the dramatic stuff as quickly as possible so that you're able to then sit in the moments prior to and post those big peaks and valleys. Because that's, to me, what's interesting. Like, it's less interesting to me setting up, you know, giant monologues of people talking about their ancestors and the intergalactic conflicts that they've had, and more interesting having somebody break up with their partner and then just like sit in a car and cry for 4 pages.
We call that the Dave Baker special.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, they really do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we've belabored this 9-panel grid enough.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next page. So page 2 is the reveal that we're on a sound stage on this endless. Tulip is being lit by these kind of halogen bulbs that we've chosen to depict as this kind of blue technology color, this teal color, and we have our he's not even really an antagonist. He's like a
director.
He's like a co-protagonist, but he's a piece of shit. My boy Stanley.
Mm-hmm.
I love this dude. He's such a fuckhead.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to Becca, aka Tulip, and he's giving her some sort of weird directions. Like, he says like, okay, those were good, but they were a little too confident. The greater the artist, the greater the doubt. Perfect confidence is granted the less talented as a consolation prize. Give me some weakness. And she's like, what? What is that? What does that mean? What is that even? I don't understand that. And so, you know, then we kind of pull back again emotionally, and she says everyone is Tulip again.
Yeah, and as she gives that weakness, she gets smaller and lighter and sort of fades away, along with, obviously, the panel borders.
Yes, exactly. I know, and it's funny because you say that like that's something that everyone will just be aware of. But let's be real, comics literacy does not exist. Like, even just the fact that the panel 4 is basically the same composition as the 9-panel grid, but she's unsure about it and shifting just slightly is almost kind of like that character is breaking the repetitiveness of that initial thing and trying to reset, which then goes into the straight on shot of her trying to get her shit together and perform accurately, which is all very considered. And also the line pulls on her being that same technological blue color is really, it's very effective.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially we had them this like dark purple that the rest of the book was, and it just, we needed her to feel unsubstantial in these. And with that big dark line, it didn't feel different enough. It didn't feel like she was floaty enough. And I think the decision to use the blue line really, really helps.
Yeah, I agree.
Even between her speech bubbles too, you know.
Yeah, which is why in these first 2 where she's, you know, the speech bubbles are that purple color.
That's Becca speaking, and then
this is Tulip speaking.
it's Tulip speaking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it all conveys, even though you don't really know what's happening, you immediately know what's happening. These are the things that we're discussing right now are kind of the things that you'll pick up on the second read through the book. Like right now, you're probably still just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. They're on a fucking endless shooting some video or something. Who is this guy? What is this girl? What's going on?
Yeah.
Let's go to the next page. Now we're on page 3. And Stanley's like, okay, let's take 5, everyone. And Tulip/Becca like walks off the end list to sit on these chairs, pulls out her phone. She has these nice little pop-ups right here, which we can talk about in a second. And then, oh, look at that. The cell phone mechanic that we love to do.
Yeah.
And then she doesn't have any notifications except for Free Nudes 69 now has started to follow her. Yeah. And she just kind of sits there like, fucking for real though?
Yeah, because at this point, it's pre anything happening, really. This is her first time shooting these videos, even though we've shown you what more of them are, you know? It's not really figured out yet. And so her social media is just what it always has been, which is not very active.
Yeah, and I think it's also kind of like, this scene is also an attempt to put into context, like, it's almost that parable of like, if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, does it really happen? Of like, this person, theoretically, you know, is they moved to Los Angeles to be a performer, an actor, to be seen on camera, but no one has seen this footage yet. No one has completed that feedback cycle. And even though she is technically living her dream right now, it doesn't mean anything to her because as the cell phones depict, there's no attention. There's no.
Yeah, it's not real for her until it's acknowledged by others.
Yeah.
There's no kind of internal motivation or joy in what she's doing, really.
Yeah, which is depressing as fuck.
Yeah. Well, again.
Hi. Welcome to the Dave Baker Express.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next page. So this is one of the flashback pages that you were talking about, where it's Becca and her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend Jack back in Arizona prior to the Los Angeles escapades, so diligently marked as, in parentheses, years ago.
Yeah. Very specific amount of time.
Yeah, very specific. Why? Where does the purple come from? Was there a decision behind that, or?
Well, the purple is sort of it's to set it apart. It's kind of like our version of sepia. You know, it's in the past, but without, you know, literally doing sepia, and also. There is, I think, a dullness to the pages with this monotone purple, which really is how Becca kind of saw her life before moving to LA. And I think how she sees most of her life in LA until things start happening. But life was not colorful, not exciting, and not fulfilling. And so everything in the past is this kind of single color and just washed out and not interesting to her.
Which is also really funny because, you know, the first line is her saying, what a fucking shithole. And it's this beautiful sunset, you know, night shot of this glittering city, you know, cutting into the night, and she can't see it. You know, it's all, her world is here, you know, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing necessarily innately wrong with her location. It's more the way that she interacts with her world and, you know, the people in it.
Yeah. I also really like your visual representation of her ex-boyfriend. He's just such a like harmless, dumpy, kind of shitty, but also kind of nice. Like he's doing his best, you know?
Yeah.
He's out here. He's trying. R.I.P. That was a joke. Nothing bad happens to him. So then we transition from there to the Hollywood sign, and it's Becca saying, I'm sorry, can you say those again? And we see she's not actually standing in front of the Hollywood sign. She's saying a list of bagels, and she works at the Hollywood Bagel Emporium.
Yeah, she is in Hollywood, but also not literally in Hollywood, but also literally in Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this drawing that you did of perturbed Becca too, where she, no problem, sir. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like most of us have worked retail. Most of us have dealt with shitty customers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not particularly fun. And also, specifically for Becca, not at all what she thought her life would be like when she moved. So
Yeah, and that's like the goal of this scene, is to be a synecdoche for, like, you don't need to have seen her struggling for a couple years in Los Angeles. All you need is for her to say "no problem, sir" in a monotone voice with that drawing, and you get it that she's not living her best life. She's trying, she's struggling, but she's not living the best life. Or whether she's choosing to see it as not the best life.
Mm-hmm.
Later, she's taking out the trash. She's on her phone, and we see the phone light is the same blue light that the Tulip video lights are. And
as is the blue text from the one interesting Craigslist ad.
Yes. Is art a verb or a noun? Right above sensual massage. And naughty woman to spank.
I mean, anyone who's gone on Craigslist in LA looking for jobs has seen all of that.
Yep, completely. And so she, her curiosity is piqued. I love this drawing, the lighting that you and Ellie did with the phone.
I mean, that one's all Ellie. I mean, I did do, these first few pages are pretty heavily referenced from the pages that I colored, but Ellie definitely did these, and they look way better than mine. So
yeah, Ellie, if you're watching this, thumbs up.
Great job.
So she, tickety tick tick tack tack, types out a message, and then double page spread, pages 8 and 9. She's on that commute home, typing away on the phone, just pointing this out. Anybody who rides the bus, please don't put your backpack right next to you like that. It's not cool. It's not a nice thing to do.
As much as Becca is our great heroine, she's maybe not the most considerate person. So
no, she's not. Yeah, I also really like this drawing of this girl in the back. Her hair is really funny to me. Her little meep eyes, funny to me.
I like her weird little leg creases.
Yeah.
It's funny how you fixate on stuff like that in a drawing, where you're like, oh, look, I did this thing like weird and different than I would normally do it, and I kind of like it. Yeah.
Also, the fact that those screens are scrolling through space gives the page, or the double page spread, kind of more momentum, as you can feel the bus going forward, and these kind of like windows, the scroll, that drawing like feels like the horrible infinite scroll of Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty life-sucking. Has only gotten worse during the pandemic.
Yep, completely. And now we wait for the page to change.
How many of these you thinking you want to go for?
I mean, there's only like 4 more, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just go to the end of this first update. So now we see Becca at a series of auditions. She's kind of in line with a bunch of people, not standing out, not particularly unique. Nicole, what is this? What costume is this, Nicole?
What, I don't know. What could that be? Could it possibly be a certain sci-fi series that you and I spend most of our time talking about?
And that we've both worked on?
That's true. Yeah, we have both worked on it. Particularly, you have a mini series currently coming out.
Star Trek Voyager 7's Reckoning.
Yeah.
Available wherever comic books are sold.
Dave and I did do a short story in Waypoint a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, Dave and I talk about Star Trek like most of the time. So.
And
But
then
I like this page specifically because the repetition is a variation on the first page and the video pages that we have throughout the book of like, the repetition in her life isn't just the videos, it's also the repetition of being an actor and going on audition after audition and getting rejection after rejection, which is something that I think people experience as actors, but also as creators and bookmakers and all kinds of things. It's, you know, you kind of repeat yourself over and over and over again and have to deal with the rejection and the shame and the feelings of people not accepting you or not wanting your work or whatever it is that's going on, you know?
Yep, completely. And then we see that visually personified here where she just starts breaking down. You know, we see her over a couple days, whatever these rejections are, they're not good.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's now coming back from a some sort of cowboy or Daisy Duke style audition. She's saying, you know, I've had it. I'm not doing this anymore. It's not worth it. And then we meet her roommate. You want to talk about Eve for a second?
Yeah, I mean, we're introduced to Eve in this page, and she's kind of another girl who is also trying to become an actress, but has had sort of, I don't know if I would say more luck, but more privilege in terms of having some money, having parents who support her, having maybe already lived in LA before. And so she's had it easier in terms of kind of her entrance into this world, but also probably has had it harder in different aspects because obviously Becca's a white girl and she kind of personifies white privilege, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of can't see how things might be hard for other people as well. But, you know, Eve is guilty of that as well.
This is also, I like this page too because we're now 11 pages in, and this is the first page where there's any sort of serious dialogue back and forth between characters. Like, it's been such a kind of atmospheric, visually oriented narrative introduction into the world, and now we're finally, it's almost kind of like boom, and then you drop into a basin of text that you're reading, which almost kind of slows you down in the same way that Becca is feeling slowed down and stuck, and so you end up having to spend a lot more time on this page than the subsequent or the previous pages.
Yeah, it is definitely much more dense and much more kind of action and story driven. I mean, I guess that there's the flashback page where you spend a little more time, but that's kind of very atmospheric and a big spread. And this is really, you're kind of thrown into trying to figure out who these girls are and what their relationship to each other is very quickly.
Also, fuck you, just fuck you. Yeah, into it.
I mean, you wrote it.
It's true, I did. It's true. This is also really, I like this scene too, this little sequence where she's like, you know, where Eve is kind of like haranguing her and like hugging her and saying it's going to be okay, and this kind of like weird like yeah it's almost negging, but it's also very loving and kind of like it's okay, it's all right, man, don't worry about it, it's gonna be fine. It's very endearing to me.
Yeah, I mean, we had some earlier passes in the book where they were really kind of at odds through the whole book, and so we did make an effort to kind of show you that, you know, they're not on the same page with everything and there's a lot of conflict, but they're friends, they live together, and they kind of like each other as roommates too.
Yeah. And then this little sequence ends with one of the phones starts buzzing and they both pick up their phones, and there's nothing for Becca, and someone is texting Eve.
Yeah, I mean, we've all experienced hearing a phone picking it up and it not being you who's getting that text.
Yeah. So this
Becca,
is,
I was just gonna say, Becca, while she's been in LA for a while now, really hasn't kind of developed any relationships. And in terms of networking, knowing people, or even just having any friends, Eve is much more successful at that.
this is the last page of this first update. So this will be the last page that we talk about, which is, it's Becca kind of brushing her teeth, examining herself, looking for flaws in the mirror, and then also getting an email from Paradox XL, and it says, "Is the medium the message, or is the message the medium?" And she says, "Who gives a shit? We're all going to die. Death is the ultimate medium, right?" And she gets another message from him, and then a dropped pin that says, "Be here for an in-person audition."
And you want to talk about why you love the structure of the phone mechanic in a diamond 9-panel grid so much?
Yeah. So the phone thing, kind of, we started doing it in the third volume of Fuck Off Squad, Fever Coast, and it, a lot of comics is about visual rhythm. A lot of comics, especially grids, is about how you subvert or acquiesce to expectations through rhythm. And I don't even really remember how I had the idea anymore, but I had the idea of like, oh, smartphones are kind of the same shape as a panel in a 9-panel grid. We could make grids that are diamond shapes and X shapes, where it would be phone, narrative panel, phone, narrative panel, phone, narrative panel, so on and so forth. And you could have an interesting push and pull, which would function at two perspectives. It would function when you're reading the page, and it would also function when you're looking, like, panel to panel. It would also function when you zoom out and you're looking at the panel. It makes a pleasing, symmetrical, almost bird's eye view of the page, where the narrative panels are framed or accented by these phones. And we live in a fucking world that's ruled by cell phones.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of puts you, the reader, in the perspective of the character. There's lots of comics with phones where you see someone holding a phone and you can see what's on the screen or something like that, and it's at an angle. But when the phone is right there flat in your face, you are the character reading that text at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so that's it for this first video, which has probably gone on longer than we thought it would. What closing message do you got for the people? Where can they find you and the book?
Yeah, so we will be updating the book Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and it will be online, but it is also pre-orderable and in physical copy. Right now, we have links on the website to many places you can pre-order it, and then it will be available in stores and for order at the end of June. And to find me, my Instagram links are all in the bio as well, but they're, I think, NL Goux on Instagram and Nicole Goux on Twitter. Pretty easy to find if you can spell my name.
Goux. All my contact and everything is also on the about page in our bios. But if you want to follow me on Instagram, xDaveBakerX, lots of drawing videos and stuff. And yeah, please mark the page so you can come back every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and see some new pages.
Yeah, and we'll do more of these videos talking about the book, what it's like to make it, and more about our characters.
Yeah, thank you for watching.